Hey, so today I decided to do something a little different to help you guys out there get to know me a little bit better. And since this is International Wednesday, I will kind of give you what I kind of want to see the world to look like ideally. And then I'll do something similar on Friday. That one will probably be longer since I live in the United States almost exclusively. Um, and that while what happens in the world does affect me, what happens in the US affects me a lot more directly. So ideally in the world, what I'd like to see is politically, I'd like to see more actual democracies. Um, you see those a lot more in Scandinavia, in Canada, in Europe, largely. Getting there in a lot of other places in the world. A lot of the times, not thanks to the United States, because whenever we go somewhere, we fuck it up. Um, and the reason behind that is people naturally want to have some sort of say in their lives. Um, at least that's what I feel in uh, uh, after growing up in a Western country that has largely had a lot of freedoms. I still I understand that it's not entirely the same everywhere. But when the opportunity to vote presents itself, people feel much more inclined because they have a say in their future and they have a little control over their destiny. Um, and again, I understand that kind of sounds like some Western jackass putting his ideals onto the rest of the world, but democracy was not just a Western idea. Before the United States, or actually before that, before the Hawaiian League took over Hawaii, they had their own constitutional monarchy. They had representative democracy and a figurehead queen, um, and democratic to one extent or another. Societies existed all over Africa, all over Asia, well before Westerners had any contact with them. It's it's kind of like divergent, a convergent evolution, where and convergent evolution is this theory that similar body plans evolve independently of connection to the creature. Like the first saber-toothed animals were gorgonopsids, and then saber-toothed cats had them, and saber-toothed marsupials had them. So basically, yeah, societies around the world created democracy without Western influence. And so I think if we're able to get to a point where every country has some sort of democracy, it doesn't have to be American style. It shouldn't be American style. I actually prefer the uh, the parliamentary style that like the UK has, a little bit more representative, I think. Um, so yeah, a representative democracy, a republic style. Uh, I mean, the American system does have its advantages. The federal style with federal government at the top, then state governments, then local governments. That idea is feasible. It's just making it so that it works for everyone's favor. I'd also like to see a lot more environmentally conscious policy. The oil countries of the Middle East don't seem to really have as much care. Same as China's getting better, but they don't seem to have as much concern. Russia definitely doesn't have that concern. I kind of would like to see what the world have the view of global environmental policy like Costa Rica Originally, Costa Rica was not part of the Paris Climate Accord, but then Trump said "fuck you" to the Paris Climate Accord, and they and Syria, who had been in the middle of a civil war at the time, both signed on. Syria didn't sign on originally because civil war, and Costa Rica didn't sign on originally because they didn't think it went far enough. It wasn't a treaty which was enforceable, and the provisions within it didn't go as far as they would have liked. And I'd like to see the world have kind of this view of global environmental policy that Costa Rica had. And this also extends to treating animals fairly well, especially endangered species. I understand that sometimes game hunting is necessary for your local economies and conservation, things of that nature. But if we can have this much more regulated, that would be more ideal. And then hopefully, as time goes on, endangered species can go from being endangered to least concern, which is kind of something that we humans have, which is not entirely ideal. Let's see here. What else would I... respecting other countries' sovereignty. Russia is not the only bad guy in this. The United States is horrible at this. I'd like to see where different countries respect the sovereignty of other countries, meaning not invading them. A way I like to think of this is one of my favorite book series growing up was The Wheel of Time, and that ended with the Dragon's Peace. And the Dragon's Peace was the borders that existed at the time of the last battle would be the borders that lasted until the end of time. Side note, you should read that book series. It's fantastic. Anyways, middle 3 kind of drag. But I kind of blame the publisher because they kind of got greedy. Anyways, but yeah, that's kind of like what I'd like to see for the world to see the world look like. I don't know if I'll see that in my lifetime, but here's hoping. So yeah, this is Joshua with Cultural Catholic signing off, and I will see you again on Friday.